Baby Luis Vergara. As far as soft wipes, most of them use SW Alabaster, SW White Dough, Benjamin Moore Chantilly Lace, Benjamin Moore Swiss Coffee.
Sorry, will you start over? I didn't have the, I'm so sorry. I thought I had everything ready to go. Okay, go for it.
Now that it is 6:01, we will call the Town of Hideout Planning Commission meeting to order for the date of 6/26/25. First order of business is roll call. Rachel?
I'm here.
All right. Chase is excused. Glynis?
Here.
Donna?
Here.
Brad? Here. Joel? Here. And Tony's here. Brad, welcome to the circus. Next item on the agenda is the approval of last month's meeting minutes. Does anybody have any corrections that they have not forwarded to Kathleen yet that they would like to discuss
No.
for May 29th and June 10th? The June 10th work session.
Right. I mean, my only thing was, when Mr. Brabank had concerns of I had concerns of the viability of the commercial. What I also said was that I didn't want to negate anything. I mean, I wanted to keep it open to commercial because there was, wanted to have a more visionary outlook because we are growing and we may need it at one time, at some point.
I'll get back and listen.
Yeah,
Get back.
okay.
There being no additional edits or questions in regard to the minutes, would somebody like to make a motion?
Since I wasn't at the June 10th. You wanna do them separately or
Yeah, I wasn't.
individually?
Do them separately, and then also, which set of minutes was that Donna wanted corrected?
It was May.
Yeah.
Sorry. Do you want to wait on those, or do you just trust Kathleen to update them and go? We can always bring them back.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I trust Kathleen.
Oh.
Of course I trust Kathleen.
Of course, we trust Kathleen.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, we could approve them, that's fine. I just wanted that added in there, that, just want to be forward thinking is what I said at the last meeting.
So I move that we approve the May 19th minute.
29th.
I'm sorry. Is it May 29th?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, then it's wrong on the minutes.
No.
details, minor details.
You
So
said Kathleen.
I will fix that
Okay.
too.
I move that we approve the minutes of May 29th with the May 19th dates updated to the 29th. And the corrections as made by Kathleen and requested by Donna.
Somebody would like to second? Thank you for it. All right, I
So
will-
I don't think. he
No, you actually
can,
you
because
cannot.
you can't, you haven't been sworn in yet.
Wait till the
So-
second.
Yeah.
That's the first thing on the list. Eventually, we get there. All right, would somebody like to second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Donna. And we'll take a vote. Rachel,
Yes.
Glynis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Tony's a yes. Okay. So then the minutes for May 29th are now accepted. Now, does anybody have any questions or edits they would like for the June 10th? Work session minutes? I will,
I'm sorry, did we,
Chris Tansky.
oh shoot, sorry. Were we gonna add add a picture or no?
It's the same picture that's in the packet for this time, so we didn't really have a packet in advance.
Turn it off.
I didn't have anything in advance for that meeting, but it's the same exhibit that's in tonight's meeting.
Okay. I'm in a meeting. I can't move.
no, I don't. I will make a motion to accept the June 10th, planning commission work session minutes as they stand.
I second.
Thank you, then we'll take a vote. Joel,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
and Tony is a yes. I don't believe Donna and Glynis
We're
were
here.
on that, so
Yep.
they will not vote. Okay, next. The administration of the oath of office to our newly appointed alternate planning commissioner.
All right. Brad,
And the doors.
yeah, no, turn it on.
He's just really going right up the stairs.
All right, if you want to go ahead and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Brad Harrimet,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you.
State your names. Who did that? Somebody did do that.
Peter,
He did. Did he say, yeah, he goes, instead of stating his name, he goes, I state your name. So I have to laugh, I think of that every time.
All right, now you can start voting.
I second that.
Yes.
okay, we will go to item number 2 on the agenda. Consideration and possible approval of a conditional use permit.
Mm-mm.
Item number 2.
Yes,
Public hearing number 1.
Discussion of possible.
I'm sorry. Are you doing them in order or out of order?
well, I was gonna start with 2 because we're just adjourning it to a date certain.
Aren't we doing that for 2 through 6?
Yes.
I think Rachel has her hand up.
No.
Tommy, Rachel has her hand up.
Yes, Rachel.
Oh. That was by accident, sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Consideration and possible approval of, conditional use permit. For the Wild Horse Development to allow a cluster development with small lots in the Mountain Residential Zoning District. Okay, this item is going to be put over to a date certain of. Our next meeting is,
17.
Next regular.
of
meeting.
July 17th. It is on, it is open for public discussion tonight. If there's anybody, there is no one in the audience, so therefore, if there's anybody online who would like to have anything to say in regard to this matter, please raise your hand on your iPhone or computer, and then state your name and address, and please limit your questions to 3 minutes. Okay, there being nobody, we will continue this to a date certain of July 17th.
I move that we, move the meeting, the discussion to July 17th meeting.
Anybody like to say?
Second. Sorry, couldn't get the next one.
Yeah.
Let's
Jumped at
take
the same
turns.
time.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take a vote on that. Rachel,
Yes.
Glynis,
Yes,
Donna,
Yes,
Brad,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Therefore, will be moved to 7:17. Next item on the agenda. No, item number 3, discuss and possible recommendation regarding an amendment of the official town of Hideout zoning map to rezone the parcel Wild Horse Development from mountain zone to neighborhood mixed use. Okay. This also falls under the same issues as number 2. There's nobody in the audience that is open for public discussion. Is there anybody online that would like to discuss this? Please raise their hand. Okay, there being nobody, we will close the public discussion part of this item. And if somebody would like to make a motion,
I move that we move the, amendment of the hideout zoning map, of the Wild Horse Development and from mountain to neighborhood mixed use at the next meeting on July 17th.
Brad, would you
I'll
like to
second.
second? Thank you.
Keep my mouth shut.
Okay, so then we'll take a vote on that. Rachel,
Yes.
Glynis,
Yes,
Donna,
yes,
Brad,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Therefore, that item will be moved to 7:17. Okay, item number 4, discussion and possible recommendation to the town council regarding a MDA agreement for the Wild Horse development. This item also falls under the same category as 2 and 3. There's nobody in the audience for public discussion. If there's anybody online, please raise your hand, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes, please. Okay, there being no hands raised electronically, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Beat up to the punch this time.
That we move the discussion and possible recommendation to town council regarding a master development agreement for Wild Horse Development to a date determined as July 17th. Would anyone like to second it?
2 for 2, Brad?
I'll second it.
There you go. Okay, then we'll take a vote on that. Rachel,
Yes.
Glynis,
yes,
Donna,
Yes,
Brad,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Therefore, item number 4 will be moved to a date certain of 7:17. Next on the agenda. Discussion and possible recommendation to the town council regarding amendment of the official town of Hideout zoning map to rezone the parcels known as Elkhorn Springs from mountain zone to neighborhood mixed use residential. 6 residential 20 and natural preservation. Okay, there being nobody in the, this is open for public discussion, there being nobody present in the audience. If anybody online would like to discuss this, please raise your hand and limit your comments to 3 minutes. If being nobody online, would someone like to make a recommendation? No motion, I should say.
I move that we move the discussion and possible recommendation to town council regarding the amendment of the zoning map to rezone the Elkhorn Springs development from mountain to neighborhood mixed use, residential 6, residential 20, and natural preservation to July 17th.
Would somebody like to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, therefore we'll take a vote. Rachel,
Yes.
Glynis,
Yes,
Donna,
Yes,
Brad,
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
And Tony's a yes. Therefore, item number 5 will be moved to a date certain of 7/17. Okay, item number 6, discussion and possible recommendation to the town council regarding a master development agreement for the Elkhorn Springs development, which would include nightly rentals in zoning districts that do not currently allow for nightly rentals. This item is open for public discussion, there being nobody in the audience. We will now go to if anybody electronically would like to discuss anything in regard to this, please raise your hand and limit your comments to 3 minutes. There being nobody, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Thank you.
that we move the discussion and possible recommendation to town council regarding a master development agreement for Elkhorn Springs development, which would include nightly rentals in zoning districts that do not currently allow nightly rentals, to July 17th.
Thank you. Anybody like to second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Then we'll take a moment. Rachel,
Yes.
Glynis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
and Joel.
Yes.
And Tony's a yes, therefore that will be moved to a date certain of 7/17. Now back to the top of the list. Item number 1, discussion and possible recommendation to the town council of an ordinance amending the Hideout Town Standard Specifications and Drawings Manual regarding alternative standards. Thomas, I don't know if you want to go into this, or should we just turn it over to Gordon?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I would say let's turn this over to Gordon to walk through the standards.
Can I ask one big major question first?
Certainly.
Explain to me again why this has to be included in our town standard specifications and drawings manual. Because this is like our, we call those things that keep stuff back.
Curb,
No,
bumper.
our, like,
It's a
you
variance.
have to get a variance for things like
Easement,
10-foot,
retaining wall.
retaining walls.
Sounds
So you have
like,
to get a variance for that, why? And then that would maybe be included in the MDA, why is this different?
This is,
I think I can answer that question.
go ahead, Gordon.
What you're seeing tonight is not about Wild Horse. This is about an issue, a condition that the General Plan Steering Committee saw that they would like to address generally throughout the town when these criteria are met. So if this passes, if the Planning Commission recommends well, I guess it doesn't matter what the Planning Commission ultimately does. It's what the City Council chooses to do. If the City Council chooses to adopt this as a standard, then anyone would be able to avail themselves of it, and Wild Horse might be one of them.
And I'll jump in as well that, I think actually maybe it's a misnomer to call them variances. And I think that's what I'm hearing confusion about, because variances do have like a very specific definition under our code. So maybe it's better to call it alternatives or variation, or, it's where you're having specific criteria, a separate requirement or standard is required.
So Polly, are you recommending that word be different from variance?
Yes.
Okay, make sure the Planning Commission knows what that word is.
At times, but he really did develop, he got better as a shooter, he got more aggressive and more comfortable being kind of that go.
All right, go ahead, guys. You guys.
All right.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if you want to call them alternatives or variation or, I mean, they're just criteria if certain criteria are met, then there's kind of, reduced amounts. So maybe we just call it alternative.
Maybe alternative yeah, okay.
Alt-
Criteria for alternatives.
Yep, that
Proposed
sounds
local
good.
street criteria for alternatives. That sounds good, yeah. That differentiates the two.
All right, Commissioner, does that answer your question?
Yes, the only thing though is how, like. How many streets is this gonna apply to? I mean, maybe Wild Horse, maybe Nate's, Elkhorn Springs, and maybe, Richardson Flats.
Well, I think they have to meet the conditions. that are
There's
on-
If they meet the conditions,
Right,
yes.
which is a dead end and also limited to 12, I think it's 13 ERUs.
So to answer your question, it would apply to any new development that chooses to employ this, and the criteria in that development that development meets these criteria. So it's anywhere.
But the big limiting factor, and this is for any of the, Gordon, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's any of the 2 alternatives, it's a maximum of 13 residences, right?
Can you scroll up, Thomas, please?
I think Alicia's got control of that.
Oh, there we go. Okay, well, so let me give. So I appreciate the commission. It shows that the commission has studied this already. I appreciate that. Let me give a brief introduction of how we got here. The General Plan Steering Committee met a couple of times and saw a need for alternatives, and so criteria were discussed for those alternatives for dead-end streets with a few residences on them. And as a result of those meetings with the steering committee, they kind of coalesced around these ideas. And so just for the sake of presentation, I've shown the top figure there. Alicia, if you could just scroll back to that. So just for the sake of presentation, that's the standard we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we can go through. Now, Alicia, if you could scroll back up so that we could see these criteria. So they are these. The objective, I'm stammering because I'm going to have to use that word objective twice, but the objective was to use objective criteria. And so the first one is, it's about parking. And so it says it can be eliminated if it doesn't front residents, and or if the residents are not on the opposite side of the street and the developer controls both sides of the street. Parking for the residents on one side can be eliminated on the opposite side. So it really, what it amounts to is if this street doesn't have any residences there, then they can the idea can be entertained to not have parking there.
So if there's one house here and one house here, then it doesn't work.
Well, the parking would only be allowed on one side.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask you, parking on one side. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood it correctly. Thank you.
So then we talk about we talk about the sidewalk. So none of these alternatives involve well, I guess they do reduce the pavement width if the parking's gone. They all comply with the fire code. The fire code is the underlying standard that cannot be compromised. So sidewalk can be eliminated and snow can be placed in the PUEs if there's no potential destination for pedestrians. So let's say we have a dead-end street, and on the other end of this dead-end street, there's nowhere for a pedestrian, nowhere a pedestrian would want to go. That could be a rationale for not having the sidewalk. The street is a dead end with less than 13 residences, and there's no potential destination for pedestrians. Let's see here.
Hey, Gordon, do we have any verbiage in another place about commercial development?
Not that I'm aware of.
So do we need to add something in here? If there is a commercial development, then we need sidewalks.
Oh, well, that would be a destination.
Do we need to spell that out?
Sure, it wouldn't hurt. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt because
Holly, do we need to spell that out?
Commercial development would be a destination.
Well, a trail would be a destination.
Yeah, we could give some examples. That's a great idea to just clarify. So we could add to 2A, like there's no potential of destination for pedestrians such as commercial, commercial facility or trails.
So on item B, the one thing that is not objective is that number, the number 13. That's a subjective number. I don't know that you're going to find some measurable criterion to say things are different between 12 and 13 or between 13 and 14. So that is what it is.
Gordon, can you explain? I'm wondering if we need A. So are you saying that could happen even if it's not a dead end street? If there's no potential destination for a pedestrian?
Yeah, that's what that means.
Okay, gotcha. And does the end apply to just B, or is that for B, do you need C, D, and E?
Oh, the
Or-
and should apply to both A and B.
Okay,
So if help me there, if that doesn't work, if that needs to be clarified.
yeah, okay, so C, D, and E apply to both A and B. Okay. I just got to figure out what the right way is to put that. If 1 or 2,
And then
maybe just make it,
indent it again and just make it, little I, little 2 I's and 3 I's, and then just copy that.
Or capitalize the A and the B and then make the C, D and a blue.
yeah, I think we need to make it like big A, 2A. There's no potential, big A, and then either of the following, and then do A or B or little.
So how about you just if the planning commission chooses to forward a positive recommendation, for now, just put a condition in there that we modify this such that
It's clearer.
C, D, and
Yeah.
E apply to A and B, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. That's gonna be easier than trying to.
Yeah, do it.
We will
Okay.
make it clear.
All right, so let's move on to C, okay? So then if A and B, if A or B happens, then C, D, and E must happen. And so that means the PUEs must be designated on the plat as snow storage easements so that, property owners, PUEs are on private property. And so that it needs to be recorded on the plat that there's another encumbrance so the property owners know that snow from the right of way is going to be stored on their property in that area. D, the slope of the PUE on one side of the street as determined by the city engineer. So the city engineer is going to decide which side of the street doesn't exceed 2%. And that side of the street is designated as a public access easement. And that PUE is finished with 4 inches of road base. And the idea there, we can show when we get to it, the idea is to still give some somewhere for pedestrians to go. So the 2%, not exceeding 2%, that's about accommodating pedestrians. The public access easement, that's about letting the public traverse somebody's private property in that area. And the road base is about a finished surface for the pedestrian. So item D is all about still providing some accommodation for pedestrians. And then item E, the slope of the PUE on the opposite side of the street does not exceed 2% for the first 5 feet. And so that's let's see. That's to provide snow storage. Now we could clarify that, we could add a little clarification that that's if it's an upslope. We don't want to try to put snow on an upslope of 3 to 1. If it's a downslope of 3 to 1, it doesn't matter. So that's if the planning commission chooses, they can make that clarification. But that's all about having slopes that still accommodate snow storage. All right. So let's move on to the examples below, please, Alicia. So these are a couple examples of how these alternatives might be employed. So this top one, there's still a sidewalk, and so that's the idea that there's still a destination for pedestrians. So we're still accommodating the snow storage there, and then on the opposite side of the street, there's no accommodation for the pedestrians, so the snow can be placed. So there doesn't need to be further right of way. It can just be PUE, and we can put snow in the PUE. Scroll down a little bit more, please. And then this is the situation where we have the pedestrians walking in the PUE, and snow is stored in the PUE. So that's it. Are there what questions can I answer?
Does anybody on the commission have any questions?
I do. If you go up to number 1 again, where it says at the very start, where it says parking can be eliminated if it does not front a residence. Does that mean parking could be eliminated on both sides and you're left with just a 20-foot wide street? Or are we gonna?
Yeah, if there are no residences on either side of the street.
But the road, Gordon, would still be 27 feet wide.
Scroll up to the,
That's right.
Yeah, the road doesn't get narrowed, we just don't allow parking on both sides.
I just look at the no sidewalk alternative. You got the 20 feet for the fire truck and you got the 6 feet for the parking. And if the developer read it, said, well, I can eliminate parking then, so all I have to do is 20 feet wide.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the intent.
so that's what would happen under this standard. If there are no residences on either side, then it would just default to the fire code. And depending on, the fire code might still require 26 feet depending on fire hydrants. Anytime there's a fire hydrant along a road, then they require it to be wider. But aside from the fire hydrant influence of the fire hydrant, yeah, it would just be the 20 feet.
Typically in Hideout, the Wasatch Fire Department has held us to a minimum of 26. That's been recent history over the past 5 years, but I guess that's really up to them.
Can we say something then,
Yeah.
like parking can be eliminated if it does not front a residence, but it must meet the fire standard?
Well, I think it has to meet, I think that's redundant. We don't have to say that because it has to meet the fire code.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it certainly doesn't hurt. So I wouldn't mind having that reminder in there at all.
So should we say then that as long as it meets approval by the county fire marshal?
Well, we've got
So we're not putting numbers in there that could change?
right. Alicia, can you scroll down to the table 5, I think it's table 5. Keep going. Keep going. Next page. Oh, next page. There we go. At the bottom, right there. We're having to add this to be perfectly harmonious with the fire code. So we could just add this too up in the other one, as approved by Wasatch Fire District. We can come back to this, but that's the verbiage I think we ought to use, is just as approved by WFD.
Yeah, I like that.
Being smart.
Thomas, do you have anything you want to add?
No, just as in terms of context, as we look at the alternative standard, I think it's 27 feet wide. It's just worth keeping in mind that our current road, Shoreline, for example, is 26 feet wide. And so this alternative standard is not less than what we've been accustomed to, and it is for limited use as provided by these alternative criteria. So I just wanted to make sure in terms of context, people understood that this is not narrower than roads that we typically see throughout Hideout right now, and they're throughput roads.
And the big difference between what we're doing here and what has existed is the residences. Where we have what has existed, we've had residences without parking in front, and that's caused problems. So if there are no further questions, we can move on to and if someone wants to maybe take some notes and formulate a motion for that. We can move on to these other items. Okay, Alicia, if you could scroll down to the red, please. All right, we're adding essentially the same provision in both the water system portion of the standards and the sewer system portion of the standards. And that is, well, I'll just read it first. So it's all about not having duplicate services on a lot or a parcel. Each lot or parcel shall be served by only one service connection. In the event that two service connections exist, such as with a consolidation of two lots into one, the applicant shall remove one service connection by removing the corp stop at the water main and plugging the tapping saddle. And the sewer one is the exact same idea, but the plugging it in a little bit different way because it's a different kind of pipe. And so the reason for this is it's a security problem to have two laterals to one parcel. One of them gets forgotten and lost and whatever, and yet it could still be connected to illegitimately, and water could be stolen, services could they could discharge sewer into that, and so it's not a good situation. So we want to have one set of services for each parcel. Any questions about those?
Just a quick question. So if there are two services, would the owner be charged twice? So would behoove them to cap the second one?
No, well, so that's a policy question I can't answer, but I can't imagine that the town would. It would just sit there dormant. I hope we don't have any. Does that answer your question?
Part of the process when I record a plat that's been a combined lot is that I have to tell Luann that they've been combined so that she doesn't double charge.
Okay.
And I'll just add to that, they wouldn't be able to get service connection because the second lot would have been eliminated in the plat. So there wouldn't be a lot there to have the services for billing.
Okay.
So it just gets kind of left there unaccounted for, but there's an opportunity to
Use it legally. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about these two provisions? Okay, let's move along, please. Can you, is it possible to switch this to landscape now, Alicia?
Let me.
Alicia, when I played with this, if you rotate the entire thing in the PDF, it rotates all pages, but then we can rotate it back for the next page.
Okay, on the right side.
Yeah, it's just that it's off the screen and so I can't get to it. There we go.
Sweet.
Oh, you did the individual page. Good job.
That's
Okay, so if you could zoom a little bit. That's good enough for me. Oh, that's even better. Okay. So this is just an addition about dealing with the subgrade. Whenever there's a street that's proposing a development, there's an underlying geotechnical report. And the geotechnical report's got a pavement design, and it talks about how to prepare the subgrade the natural soils all the way up until the pavement. And so we're just bolstering this specification a bit, referencing the geotech report, referencing how it's to be tested. It's what they call a deflection test. And really what that amounts to is they'll drive a full water truck over this, and somebody will watch the soil to see if it's moving underneath the wheels of the truck. And there's a procedure for that in the American Public Works Association, section 32 there. And then if it does move, then the geotechnical report has methods to stabilize that. So that's what that's about. A little more definition about how to properly prepare subgrade. Can we scoot down to the table now? And maybe zoom out to see what we've got there on the left. Good, thank you. All right, this is just a change. We're reflecting the change in the industry. There's a new way of going about specifying pavements. There's an old method called the Marshall method, a new method called super pave, and it's very technical. And if you're not asleep already, it'll put you to sleep if I talk about it. So that's essentially what we're doing here. We're changing that. We're after the same thing with a different way of specifying it. Now, one thing that is different, we're talking about 4 inches on the local streets instead of 3 inches. I'm finding in the geotechnical reports, the pavement designs, they're specifying 4 inches now, and I've checked that with a guy named Tim Beal, who's a recognized expert in the state in pavement design, and this is where we need to be for sustainability of our streets. That minimum 20-year design of projected daily traffic, that's just a criterion that we're telling the geotechnical engineer to use as he or she develops the pavement design. And then there at the bottom, another boring detail, reclaimed asphalt pavement. That's where you might have seen, the one that comes to my mind is at the point of the mountain between Draper and Lehigh. You might have seen mountains of black material, and that's asphalt that they've reclaimed, that they've ground off of roads and gathered it up and taken it back to their yard. They reuse that. They'll reuse that in the pavement, and it's a good thing to do. It's a conservation measure and very appropriate. But you got to limit how much you put in the mix, and that limitation is 15%. So that's spelled out here. Okay, moving on. Well, do we want to entertain questions? I guess we should. Questions about this sheet? Are there any? Something else. I struck those 2 lines, mountain and arterial. The new standards, we just don't have those streets in the standard anymore. We've only got 3. We've got a local, minor collector, and major collector. Okay, questions, please.
These obviously weren't followed on Kayak in Lakeview.
I believe these, also some of these, I think, new standards that just came into effect also. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
not by us, but
they have ripped up that road no less than 5 times. Or sections of it
Where's this?
in Lakeview. Because
Yeah, so this particular standard doesn't talk about cutting new streets. This is just all about how you build them so that they will last.
so this applies to new streets and old streets?
No, just new streets.
Yeah.
The old streets are what they are, and
Right.
and we have a pavement management program that we're working on, and we will apply whatever remediation measures are necessary depending on the symptoms. Any other questions about this sheet? Okay, Alicia. So this is just a quick little change. Changing the, so this, that's, if you scroll up just a little bit to see what those numbers mean. Other way, other up. There we go. Okay, these numbers are all about radii. So it's all about this curve that we see right in front of us where the ped ramp is. It's the radius of that curve. And so obviously it was 25. The fire code, so we're doing this to reflect Appendix D of the fire code. And the fire code says 28. And the narrower a street is, the more critical this turning radius, or this radius around a corner, the more critical it becomes. And so we're just reflecting Appendix D of the fire code here. Any questions about that? Okay, next one, please, Alicia. Oh, that's the same thing. I've struck that right there. Okay, keep going. All right. There was a letter that we got a month or two ago from a state fire marshal talking about street widths, and I erred. I said we were perfectly in compliance. Well, we were a foot off, and so I fixed that foot. So now this is in perfect compliance with the fire code.
So are we switching it from 54 to 53 or 53 to 54?
Switching it from 54 to 53. It was 1 foot wider. It was 1 foot wider than the fire code.
And 29-foot asphalt. Okay.
Oh, and so, you know, it might help. There's some background here. State legislature mandated the width of local streets, and they essentially they copied the fire code. And so I guess technically what I'm doing here is complying perfectly with the legislation, which happens to be based on the fire code. Any other questions?
Does that number need to be changed as well?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
yeah, that's why I asked my question.
Okay, next sheet. So we talked about this a little bit. There is a footnote here that says a local street can be up to 12% for not exceeding 500 feet. And just to comply with the fire code, this is ultimately the fire district's call. And so that's what we're doing. we're reflecting the fire code and deferring to them based on that. That's it. If everybody's still awake,
This is just a question because it's on your, on that thing. Cul-de-sacs are not allowed? Or? Oh, they're allowed in local class 2, but not minor collector and major collector. That makes sense. Answered my own question.
any other questions?
I know I wasn't at the June 10th meeting, but just a clarification that how did you come up with the 13 residences?
It was a discussion amongst everybody
Okay.
as to what number.
So that was that came out of the General Plan Steering Committee.
I'm sorry, what was that? Came out of what steering committee?
The General Plan Steering Committee.
General plan, okay.
They are the ones who vetted the road alternatives.
We did some research at with other communities to see what they utilized in terms of the number of residential units for maybe non-throughput streets, et cetera. Typically what we saw were about 12 to 15 units was pretty commonly used. And so we settled on 13, just kind of an in the middle number, if you will.
Part of that discussion, Donna, was should it be the length of the road as opposed to the number of residences? And the issue with that was, what if you have a really dense, high density, then it's a lot of units. So that's when they said it's better to go with the number of residences.
Okay.
Can I ask, I mean, I've expressed before that I'm very against changing these codes. Can I ask what the rationale is for actually creating exceptions?
Well, I can speak to it, I suppose. Like in the introduction, the idea was about objectivity. As an engineer, I struggle with subjectivity. I really like objectivity. That's the way I'm trained to think, right? And so the objectivity, aside from the number of residences, is about need. So if there's no need for anybody to park there because nobody lives there, then there's a rationale for not needing the space, and likewise for pedestrians. That was the rationale.
But we do know that we can't enforce the parking as we think we should. So the
It's
rest
not
of
a-
it, to me, seems like we're
Right,
just
The idea
creating-
was
Rachel, I
let me
have to
jump in real
correct
quick.
you.
The idea was
Yeah.
that
Excuse
if
me.
nobody lives there, then they probably won't want to park there.
Excuse me, Gordon. Rachel, I have to correct you. It's not a question that we can't, it's that we don't. All we need to do is discuss it with the sheriff's department when they come through. And we have not forced the issue with the sheriff's department, to the best of my knowledge. So that's why it does not get enforced. If we asked them to, I'm sure they would.
Okay, I still don't see why we would want to change the requirements, just to open us up to the possibility of not being as safe.
I don't think that'll be an issue. It's really based on context, as I noted, length of road, location, slopes, et cetera. And so I think that was also some of the reasons that it was put forward.
So like I said, the objectivity that I was looking at was need. If there's not a destination for any pedestrians to want to go, then one could rationalize that there's no need for a sidewalk. If there are no, if there's nobody parking along, if there's nobody living along the street, then there's rationale that could be made to say, well, nobody will have a need to park there. that was the rationale. Whether you agree with it or not, that's, you know, that's for the planning commission to decide.
Well, I actually thought 13 residences was a little high for, you know, for having the narrower streets, because I do have a concern of safety and the fire truck, and what if somebody illegally is parking on the street and they can't get through, and, you know, a moving truck is there. I mean, you know, what if there's a fire, a forest, or sagebrush fire up there? You know, it isn't so
Look.
much even
You do have to realize it's 13 doors. So literally you could
Six on
have,
one side, six on.
you could have 13 doors in one building if they're building a condominium, so it
That's
would be
true.
one building,
So this is 13 actual doors.
yes.
And Donna, it may be helpful to remember that the parking is only allowed on one side, so it does leave enough width for a fire truck. And also the fact that even the alternative standard is still 1 foot wider than the widest road in town, which is Shoreline Drive, actually.
And this is just for 13 doors?
Mhm.
Sure.
Yes.
How does that read? Alicia, would you mind scrolling up to that where the number 13 is used?
I can't remember where it was.
In the beginning.
Or right at the top almost.
Right going there, right there.
Right there, right there.
That's right. The dead end, less than 13, and no potential destination for pedestrians.
So do we have any requirements for parking, like guest parking? Guest parking pads?
We don't have requirements for that for individual housing units. If a subdivision comes in, typically if we're looking at over 50 units, we do try to incorporate some off-street parking as part of the concept plan and platting process.
Okay, so with this item 2B, we're talking about a maximum of 12 residences. See, this is less than 13.
Well, you're definitely going to have street parking if you don't have any parking pads for 12 residences.
Well, sounds better.
They will have garages,
On
Rachel.
the one side, yeah.
Yeah, but you have guests that come and workers and whoever, but
Parking on one side of the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they still have to they still have to provide parking on their side of the street wherever there are residences. If the developer controls the other side of the street, he or she can designate that one instead. But
what happens when we have people that have RVs?
So that would be a separate code issue. That's really not an engineering standard. That's a code standard about whether the town allows RVs to be parked on the street.
Well, right now they do, don't they?
I don't know, but that's a different discussion.
Do we allow them parked in the street? No.
No, we don't right now. We have we have language in the code regarding that. There's timelines and limits for that. And the HOA also has limits with regard to RV parking.
Yeah, I think ours are like 24 hours or something, but that means they're still going to be there while they're loading and unloading.
Do any of the commissioners have any other questions for Gordon and or Thomas in regard to this before we open this up? Okay, there being none, before we open it up for public discussion, for the record, I did receive two emails, one from Mr. Frick and one from Mr. Leone in regard to this. They've been forwarded to the town recorder to be made part of the record and part of this discussion. That being said, then, if anybody there's being nobody in the audience that would like to partake in the public discussion of this, we'll open it up to or anybody else who's online or on the phone. Please raise your hand, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, there being no hands up, we will close the public discussion part of this. Carly, I think we're gonna need your help in regard to how we're gonna word our recommendation with some of the changes we've discussed.
Yeah, so, and Alicia, did you take, or Kathleen, do you want to summarize the amendments and then someone could make a motion to just say as amended? Or
I
Gordon?
heard a bunch of the amendments. You want me to take a stab at it and somebody can fill me in?
Yeah, the notes that I took were just clarifying the language on the conditionals between the various numbers 1 and 2, and then which subsections apply. And then we were also going to clarify in 2A that it would reference commercial facilities or trails. And then also referencing as approved by Wasatch County Fire District in the criteria for the more narrow streets without sidewalks or parking. I don't know if I got everything there, but did you have more, Glennis?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Then, I mean, I'm assuming that the ordinance covers all of what we just covered. So the 54 gets changed to 53, 28 feet to meet Appendix D fire code. Where was that?
This is 27.
No, it was down in the table, I think.
It was the graphic about the radii.
Right,
Radio.
that's the radii.
The radius. Okay. I don't know if that needs to be added. Does that need to be added?
I don't know that we changed anything here, did we?
He already had that marked. The 28 feet.
Yeah, he had it
within the
marked.
red line.
I just added the note to meet Appendix D of the fire code.
Oh, I don't think you need to reference the fire code here. It just is what it is. We're just,
Okay,
I don't see a need to reference the fire code.
okay. Then no.
I was just telling you where it came from.
Okay, just that local access road needs to say 53-foot right of way instead of 54. On the next page. There.
Right, so then I think your motion would be to forward a positive recommendation to the town council as amended.
So moved.
No, you do have to make that motion.
You have to say that.
Oh, I have. Oh, okay. Go for it. You took
See
me-
what's on there, just-
See what I got myself into. Okay. I move that we make a positive recommendation on the town of Hideout ordinance. Adopting amendments to the Hideout Town Standard Specifications and Drawings Manual regarding alternative standards. With the amendments discussed. Is that okay?
Yep, that
Anybody-
works.
Anybody like to second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Joel. Okay, we'll take a vote on that. Glynis,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes,
Rachel,
No,
Tony's a yes, Brad.
Yes.
Therefore, we will make a positive recommendation to the town council in regard to item 1 on the agenda.
Commissioners, thank you for your questions and your thoughtful consideration of all these.
Gordon, I just wanted to thank you for all the work you put in on this.
Yes, thank you, Gordon.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And thanks for all your explanations. They're very helpful.
Yes.
My pleasure.
I move that we adjourn the June 26th meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, then we'll take a vote. Glynis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Therefore, we are adjourned until July 17th.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gordon.
Thanks.